11. Meyer Lansky, July 4, 1902 to January 15, 1983, known as the Mob's Accountant, was an American organized crime figure who, along with his associate Charles Lucky Luciano, was instrumental in the development of the National Crime Syndicate in the United States. Meyer Lansky was born in 1902 in Grodno, Russia, present-day Belarus, immigrating to America as a child. His family immigrated to the United States in 1911 and, after his parents allegedly couldn't recall Sucholjansky's birth date, he was assigned the birthday of July 4 for his immigration records. Sucholjansky's name was eventually Americanized to Meyer Lansky, and he became a naturalized citizen in the late 1920s. Growing up on Manhattan's Lower East Side, Lansky had a hardscrabble life, facing horrible violence as a child, yet he was also renowned for his prodigious mathematical abilities and self-assured demeanor. He left school after graduating from the 8th grade and took on tool and die work, later becoming an auto mechanic. Having started up a street gambling business and becoming a mentee of Arnold Rothstein, Lansky befriended Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, with the two forming a partnership and creating the Bugs and Meyer Mob, known for hiring out men who doled out violence and murder for other organizations. Years later, Lansky, as head of the Eastern Syndicate, was also believed to have ordered Siegel's murder in the mid-1940s. With Prohibition in effect, Lansky also ran a prominent liquor bootlegging operation. Charles Lucky Luciano was a fellow bootlegger as well, and Siegel would later acknowledge that Lansky and Luciano were in fact far closer in terms of their friendship. About Bugs and Meyer Mob. The Bugs, Bugsy, and Meyer Mob was a Jewish-American street gang in Manhattan, New York City's Lower East Side. It was formed and headed by mobsters Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky during their teenage years shortly after the start of Prohibition. The Bugs and Meyer Mob acted as a predecessor to Murder Incorporated. The two soon formed a gang called the Bugs and Meyer Mob. In the early 1920s, the Bugs and Meyer Mob was in operation, working with Charles Lucky Luciano and Luciano's right-hand man Frank Costello. Lansky and Siegel recruited expert gunmen. They supplied bootleggers with stolen trucks and drivers. Lansky was experienced with automobiles and mechanics, and soon the Bugs and Meyer Mob was active in car theft. At this time they were joined by Abner Longi Zwillman and his brother, Irving Mo Sedway, and Louis Lepka Buckleter. The gang handled protection, truck hijacking, murder, and illegal gambling. They were also enforcers of Costello in both New York and Louisiana. They were ultimately responsible for helping to destroy or subordinate by assassination and political bribery most of the Italian-American gangs. About Charles Lucky Luciano. Charles Lucky Luciano, born Salvatore Lucania, November 24, 1897 to January 26, 1962, was an Italian-born gangster who operated mainly in the United States. He started his criminal career in the 5 Points Gang and was instrumental in the development of the National Crime Syndicate. Luciano is considered the father of the Italian-American Mafia for the establishment of the Commission in 1931 after he abolished the Boss of Bosses title held by Salvatore Maranzano following the Castellamarese War. He was also the first official boss of the modern Genovese crime family. He was sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison, but during World War II an agreement was struck with the Department of the Navy through his Jewish mob associate Meyer Lansky, to provide naval intelligence. In 1946, for his alleged wartime cooperation, Luciano's sentence was commuted on the condition that he be deported to Italy. Luciano died in Italy on January 26, 1962, and his body was permitted to be transported back to the U.S. for burial. It was with Luciano among other figures that Lansky organized a national crime syndicate, linking together various mob factions across the country while also incorporating more reputable spheres of power into his dealings. Lansky was deemed to be the financial mastermind behind this system, with his earnings reputedly reaching hundreds of millions of dollars, though this figure has been disputed. A member of the Jewish mob, Lansky developed a gambling empire that stretched around the world. He was said to own points, percentages, in casinos in Las Vegas, Cuba, the Bahamas, and London. Lansky had a strong influence with the Italian-American Mafia. He played a large role in the consolidation of the criminal underworld by introducing money laundering and offshore banking in 1932 used in the 1950s for cash from the heroin trade. The full extent of this role has been the subject of some debate, as Lansky himself denied many of the accusations against him. Despite nearly 50 years as a member/participant in organized crime, Lansky was never found guilty of anything more serious than illegal gambling. He has a legacy of being one of the most financially successful gangsters in American history. Before he fled Cuba, Lansky was said to be worth an estimated $20 million, equivalent to $184 million in 2023. When he died in 1983, his family learned that his estate was worth only around $57,000, equivalent to $174,371 in 2023. Lansky retired in Miami and spent his last 10 years quietly at his home in Miami Beach, Florida. He died of lung cancer on January 15, 1983, aged 80, leaving a widow and 3 children. Film, the character Hyman Roth portrayed by Lee Strasberg, and certain aspects of the main character Michael Corleone from the film The Godfather Part 2 1974, are based on Lansky. In fact, shortly after the premiere in 1974 Lansky phoned Strasberg and congratulated him on a good performance. Strasberg was nominated for an Oscar for his role, but added, "You could have made me more sympathetic." Maximilian Max Berkovich, the gangster played by James Woods in Sergio Leone's 1984 film Once Upon a Time in America, was inspired by Lansky. In the 1990 Sidney Pollack film Havana starring Robert Redford, Mark Rydell plays Lansky. In the 1991 film Bugsy, a biography of Benjamin Siegel, Lansky is a major character, and played by Ben Kingsley, who was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance. In the 1991 film Mobsters he is played by Patrick Dempsey. In the 2002 film Undisputed there is a character called Mendy Ripstein who reveals that he worked for Meyer Lansky. In the 2005 film The Lost City, which presents a fictionalized account of Lansky's involvement in Cuba, Meyer Lansky is portrayed by Dustin Hoffman. In the 2015 film Legend, Meyer Lansky is referred to many times and sends associate Angelo Bruno, played by Chaz Palminteri, to London. In the 2021 film Lansky, based on Lansky's life, Harvey Keitel portrays the aging gangster while John Magaro portrays him during his younger years. In the HBO series Boardwalk Empire, 2010 to 2014, Meyer Lansky is played by British actor Anatole Youssef in all 5 seasons. In the 2013 TNT series Mob City, Meyer Lansky is played by Patrick Fischler. Jeff Brain plays a younger Lansky in a flashback sequence.